Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Just Seen podcast. And today, as you see, because season 9 ain't back yet, but I got an impromptu for you. This impromptu literally woke me up out of my sleep. It woke me up out of my damn sleep, bro. Uh, and it woke me up because it was wild because like I woke up trying to go back to sleep and shit, and I was like, "Fuck, I can't sleep." Instantly, I log into Instagram. You feel me? Just to see what the fuck was popping up there. I know I shouldn't have been in there, but it paves the way as to why this is playing out. So, first post I see when I log in is why was Amazon still selling the motherfucking Hebrews, the Negroes movie or whatever, and the books and shit, but it's supposed to be anti-Semitic, but they still mad at Kyrie. I'm like, oh, y'all missing the whole fucking point, bro. It's supposed to be up. That's what the reason is for. The movie isn't anti-Semitic. And y'all know that it's not. The thing that was anti-Semitic that fucking Kyrie and Kanye said is the fact that they were the real Jews. And so y'all know it triggered that and it said that's your episode. And so with this, we got to dive down a rabbit hole to see how the fuck we get here to where motherfuckers can't distinguish between the two. You feel me? And so for real, I think it was number 2 or maybe 1, probably 2. I discussed about how, there's a delineation between Islam and the Bible and the Quran or whatever the case may be, right? And I discussed the Abrahamic religions, they diverge at Isaac and Ishmael, right? The thing about Isaac though, Isaac is special because it creates 2 delineations within the Christianity side, right? So you either have Christianity or you have Judaism. These are 2 different ideologies and 2 different ideations. 2 very different ideations, but these so happen to be the ideations that motherfuckers are confused about, that they don't get, right? So ultimately, that's what this episode is about. It just so happens to be dropping on Sunday. Don't, shoot the messenger or whatever. But this is a conversation that I personally have to have um, because it's like, I don't like repeating myself, as y'all know. But more than that, it's like, come on, y'all, we got to wake up and see what real, you know what I'm saying? Because it's not whether the thing is not the Hebrew part. That's what y'all are supposed to be Hebrews. You feel me? Y'all are supposed to be Hebrews. I've been telling y'all for a long time. There's 2 types of chosen people. Motherfuckers don't want to listen to me. You feel me? But 2 different chosen people under the same God, right? But it's a different reality for those quote unquote chosen people. And so it dives back deeper into creation stories, into origins, into, you know, a different type of dichotomy that we're dealing with. It's deeper than just, making sure that black people stay in the Bible and making sure that, black people think they're Hebrews and they continue to believe that they're supposed to be enslaved because they're cursed and they can't get right. And they're going to forever be punished because if one of their people doesn't listen, then they're cursed on behalf of everybody. That's a very sadistic God to do some shit like that. But again, we're here. This is going to be a very tight episode as far as if your feelings, are going to be rattled and shit. So I'm going to encourage you that if you don't want to learn something new, don't listen any further. But if you do, and y'all know how I get down, you already know what's going to happen. So we're gonna break that shit all the way down. But the whole reality that we're actually dealing with is an erasure of Black history. Not only erasure of Black history, erasure of Black people. I ain't even gonna say it like Shorty on BET from the Boondocks, but this is literally an erasure of Black people, and we're gonna discuss things like the Gregorian calendars. We're gonna discuss things like the Council of Nicaea. We're gonna discuss so many different dynamics as to what they're trying to do to erase us fully and how successful they are being at erasing us. That it's not even funny anymore. So much so that if white people go extinct within the next 100 years, which they likely are because the sun and all of that other shit, they didn't count on that part, but they're trying to make sure that we go extinct by way of dying without them because we have no history to draw on because they erased our history and reset our history right in front of us, and we can't move beyond that. And because we can't be moved beyond that, we can't heal as a culture. And because we can't heal as a culture, we're still going to be continue to grasp at straws. And while we're grabbing at these motherfucking straws, it is creating a reality within us that is causing us to desire to remain slaves. Regardless of where our motherfuckers are, we're not wearing shackles no more, but you're choosing to remain a slave because you're tying yourself to the very religion that was used to enslave you. But before we dive heavy into that, be sure to follow me on Instagram at _just_seen_. Be sure to check out my website at IamJustSeen.com to get all things that are just seen. To all those who tip, donate, and sponsor to the podcast, you are greatly appreciated. To all those who would like to tip, donate, and sponsor the podcast, you can do so by clicking the link in the description of your podcast. Not this episode, but the podcast itself. Cash App and PayPal are just fine. And as always, you know the vibes. That's that for this and that's this for that. So when we come back, we're going to dive into impromptu pop-ups, whatever number I'm on. What do I want to call this? We're going to call this impromptu pop-ups in Jesus' name. And don't forget to visit IamJustSeen.com. There, you can get all things Just Seen. You want to add the So Frail series to your library? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to learn how to master the markets for serious trading and investing? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You want to get your hands on some exclusive merch like tees, hoodies, coffee mugs, hats, bags? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Are you thinking about transitioning into the plant-based lifestyle? Visit IamJustSeen.com. You ever want to just chat with Seen about anything from simple advice to mentorship? Visit IamJustSeen.com. Anything and everything that is me, you can find at IamJustSeen.com. So take a quick peek into my world to see why being just seen is nothing less but always more. Because you never really know what you need until you see it, and you will never see it unless you visit IamJustSeen.com. All right. Welcome back. And without further ado, we're going to dive straight into it. And I know it kind of hit hard, like, you're going to call this in Jesus' name. Here you go. You're going to be bashing the religion, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, everything gets to smoke with this episode. I call it in Jesus' name because in Jesus' name is how the tone is set for the erasure of our culture. I'm going to say that again. In Jesus' name is responsible for the erasure of our culture. And we're going to dive deeper into how all of this plays out, right? We're going to go into so many different pockets that I pray that you do your research and you try your damnedest to refute me. Prove me wrong. Okay? Go study, go learn, go check everything out. Study the antithesis, do everything. Go through the belief, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding levels of the mind, as I mentioned in previous episodes. Do everything you can to prove me wrong. I'm not proving anything anymore. You have to refute what I say from this point forward. And I encourage you to find a flaw and find where I'm wrong in anything that I'm going to say for the next however long we rocking. All right. Again, that was your final disclaimer that if you sensitive, get the fuck out of here. All right. If you want to learn something, if you want to grow and develop as a person, check this out. But anywho, one of the favorite songs that I grew up on as a kid is Something About the Name Jesus by Rance Allen. That was my shit. I ain't gonna hold you. But there is something about the name Jesus. It ain't the nigga name. All right. That's the first point. But it's deeper than that because this creates the rabbit hole that opens up everything else. Right. So when we start this off, Jesus sets the tone for history. He doesn't set the tone for history, but he sets the tone for history. So what I mean by that is Jesus is used by the Council of Nicaea to create the Gregorian calendar to create a world that anything before Jesus doesn't count. Incidentally, anything before Jesus is black. Anything after Jesus is what counts. There's two ways in which they do this. They either call it BC and AD. BC we know is before Christ. AD is what is it? Anno Domino or something like that. But it's the year of the Lord or something like that. But they call it after death. So that pocket of time is, BC AD. Now they're changing it low key. It's also synonymous with BCE and CE. AD is now being replaced with CE. So BCE is before common era. CE is the common era. These are very, very important pieces, especially understanding the Gregorian calendar. They understood astrology. They understood the stars that they got from our ancestors, the very motherfuckers they about to try to erase in Jesus' name. The very shit that they got from our ancestors, right? They're going to erase it. And it's not even a matter of going to erase it, they're erasing it right before our eyes. And they're making us accept the reality that this world starts at zero with the birth of Christ and all of that. Everything before that doesn't matter, which means everything before you doesn't count as long as you continue to accept this, right? Jesus, his quote unquote birth, astrologically marked the age of Pisces. It's littered all through the fucking book. It's all through quote unquote history. But this is where the reality comes in, because the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, the Talmud, none of these are historical documents. None of them. None of them. None of them. Not a single one of them have a year. Not a single one of them have an actual time pocket. They have they have historical fiction to where they have moments and pockets of time where people existed, but not these people. So when we had the dark ages, as I mentioned before, when they had the dark ages, our ages were never dark. We had golden ages. When they had the dark ages, or whatever the case may be, even the fitra, that's in the Quran and Islam. The fitra is the area of time, the moment of time when quote unquote nothing existed. They're in on it too. They're in on it too. So much so that if you look now, go do some research right now and look up the word Chrislam. It's a merger of Christianity and Islam. They're making it one religion. Why? Because they're bringing the Abrahamic religion back together. They're making the cousins reunite as one. The gaps that are filled between the two will be one. Anywho, when we go back to that point, that moment of starting with Jesus was very, very important, because everybody has accepted BCE and everybody accepted CE, or BC and AD. So anything BCE is black. Everything after that is Caucasian, is white. They're erasing. It's going to be white and Asian. There's three races of people. They don't want us to have any contribution into the realities of history. So much so that they shot the noses off the Sphinx and stuff for a reason, because they knew they couldn't destroy that monument. Right? They couldn't destroy that monument, so they shot the noses off and said, it don't look like y'all for real. Yes, it do. It got a nose like KRS-One. The fuck? You feel me? But it's deeper than that. And we're going to dive into so many other realities too. But it's deeper than that, because they're trying to go back in and paint and dilute the color of the people. And we know what's real. We know what's real. The problem is we can't let go of the Bible. The Bible, the Quran, the Torah, all of these different things are designed to set the reality up for the Piscean age. Now, here's why I mentioned Jesus and why I mentioned that. The Piscean age starts this particular moment. The Gregorian calendar, although they changed it to zero so they can have 2001, they got 2,000 years and shit out of a 65 million year old Earth. They did that so they can keep the astrological principles the same, so they can constantly continue to follow the charting, but they shifted the time. So that way, the longer we go and the more we realize we start at zero, everything that precedes it dies. Everything that precedes it gets erased. The first thing was they burned Alexandria down. When they burned Alexandria, that was a metaphorical thing of a library. They burned it down. They didn't burn the books in Alexandria. They burned the building. They took the books and stored them under the Vatican. The Vatican holds all of this shit. All of our shit is in the Vatican. They're destroying what we can physically see, and they're keeping what they need to continue the world moving forward in their favor, right? So Jesus, the birth of Jesus, marks the age of Pisces. It's no ifs, ands, and maybes about that. We can study the astrology. We can study everything. It marks the age of Pisces. And in marking the age of Pisces, they use that to mark the beginning of the Gregorian calendar. The Pisces energy is about belief and love. Those are the two realities that Jesus preached in all of his sermons, or whatever the case may be. But the biggest piece of that is belief. The age of Pisces was about belief. Nobody has learned anything We have believed over the last 2,000 years. And if you didn't believe because your masculine essence was there where you analyzed and deconstructed, you were killed, you were murdered, you were called witches and wizards. Those witch hunts that they talk about, those weren't, you got to think about it from a perspective of who they really were. A witch was not what you see in Harry Potter. A witch was not, the witches were the people that were in tune with nature, in tune with the world, and in tune with the earth. They didn't need a Bible. They didn't need a book to make them spiritual. They knew how to tap into the spirituality. They practiced the African spiritual systems that ultimately led to things like the Vodun, the Santeria, the Baptist. Now, the Baptist church, that was an interesting thing because the Baptist church was one of the ways they codified the African spirituality in the religious culture because they had to. The problem is, again, they lost the gems as people started passing it down. They weren't keeping up with the shit. So then you ultimately get Pentecostal, Episcopalian, Apostolic, all of these different, and then non-denominational. Because you started merging with the motherfuckers. But one thing now we always kept in motion that is present within Vodun, that is present within Santeria, that is present within the Baptist church is shouting, is dancing, it is movement, it is stirring up of the Kundalini. The fucking Holy Ghost you think you catch is your Kundalini rising. This is why you only have permission to rise your Kundalini in church. And then after it's moved, what you do is they have you read these informations, these texts or whatever, to keep you subjugated within this reality. It's a lexicon. You feel what I'm saying? Your lexicon is in the Bible. You cannot think outside of that. That's why that's the only thing that you're able to read. Because what you read is what you learn. And this is why we read the same book over and over and over again and still don't understand it. But yet we go through the same process because when we go to church, when we go to these different meetings, it is not to actually get the word. It's to feel the Holy Ghost, but you're feeling the Holy Ghost by stirring your Kundalini up. Your Kundalini is stirred up when you dance, which also means that in the club, your Kundalini is stirred up too. Over heavy bass, you dancing. Yeah, that's why it gets hot on the dance floor. That's why when black people get together, shit gets hot because our Kundalini naturally starts to move. Once we start moving, we get hot. We can't stay in a certain room, right? Because we can't be confined in those moments. This is why when you look at the history, the church is the only place, the black church has become the only place where it has been confined in, you feel me? But outside of that, they danced outside because there was too much heat. You feel me? There's too much heat to be indoors. The fuck? But this all ties in because each of these systems had a codified connection still to our African spiritual roots or Africoid spiritual roots. Y'all know why I say Africoid, but it's tied to our Africoid spiritual roots. But it was masked and tainted when they gave us the religion, all of the religions or whatever the case may be that we have. And we tried our best to salvage it, but we couldn't. We eventually lost it. You feel me? And we tried to make them the same, but then we end up praying to their gods or end up doing things in light of their gods, which kind of shit on ours. You feel me? You got to understand that God is the highest conceptualization of the mind. You feel me? Let me address that too. So rewind from that point, to where we were now, because one of the sides of it is the common era started with the belief of Jesus, but then when you understand the Council of Nicaea, take the religion out of it and go to the Council of Nicaea and see the business side of it. These niggas said, the Roman Empire said, what we're gonna do, my nigga, is we're gonna rule the whole fucking world and we're gonna rule it in the name of Jesus. So one thing that they teach you in history, you feel me? Because this is what they show in the history books. Like niggas ain't really gonna study for real, because niggas don't really study for real. But this is what they show you in history books. When it comes to the time of Rome, they show you two specific points. They show you the Colosseum being broken down and just like being desolate. And they tell you Rome just disappeared. You hear the quote out, Rome wasn't built in a day, but somehow it just disappeared overnight. It didn't. The Roman Empire transferred hands from the empire to the Roman Catholic Church. That's all it did. It didn't just die. The shit didn't just disappear. You don't just take an empire and just make it disappear in a matter of 5 years. Nah, they changed hands. The Roman Empire became the Roman Catholic Church in the name of Jesus. Or in the name of, the Bible or whatever the case may be. But it was even deeper than that because it was the name of the Abrahamic religion. The Abrahamic religion that Rome chose to operate under was Judaism, Christianity, which is the offshoot from Abraham of Isaac, right? This is why this is why shit don't be happening to the Roman Empire. I mean to the Romans. Because when you control the highest conceptualization of the mind, you're bulletproof. Nobody will fuck with you. You feel me? This is why you can rape the little boys and do all of that. That shit that the Romans did, it didn't stop. Like, think about some of the characteristics. Like, when we look at the word mentor was, it's, I tried, it's hard to find another word now. That's how I be telling motherfuckers I'm a guide or some shit like that. But mentor was originally depicted as an older man who had a younger boy who he was molesting, who he was grooming in a sense, right? That shit didn't change when the Roman Empire still does that. They're just the Roman Catholic Church now. And they're like, yo, how do they get away with doing this? They got away with it then. They just have a different veil over it because now they can ask for forgiveness and it'd be okay because they put a buffer in the religion. If the Pope really believed in this shit, he wouldn't ride around bulletproof. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Or if God and Jesus and all of them really stopped bullets, niggas wouldn't ride around bulletproof because they know what you don't know. But they play on your belief level of the mind. They are at the understanding level of the mind of all of this, and they're not telling you that. So they're playing into the reality that keeps you subjugated. Right. So again, the Council of Nicaea was designed to set the Gregorian calendar up. So in between that time, after the Council of Nicaea, that's when the 1,000-year Dark Ages happened. But it happened amongst the Europeans, not amongst us. We wasn't paying attention to them. We didn't care. We didn't give a fuck about them. So that 1,000-year Dark Ages, then they came out, and that's when they started burning witches. That's when they started going through the shit of seeing the reality. They weren't killing just the witches that they were killing. Like, you hear the story of Joan of Arc and shit like that. She was one of the white people that actually got taught by black people. Go figure. And she was out with it, right? But they let her be a martyr for their people. But they didn't even tell the stories of the black people that they were slaughtering who were quote unquote witches and wizards. You feel me? They demonized them. So when you look at the quote unquote gypsies and the witches and stuff like that, that's one thing. But then when you look at the people like the barons who wear the top hats and shit like that, they call them the witch doctors and all this. They made them scary for a reason because it helped them promote the religion, right? So mind you, within this 1,000-year dark period, here's where shit gets weird. Because in this 1,000-year dark period, the letter J still had not come into existence, but yet we have set a reality of a nigga named Jesus. Think about that. Because if we're starting, the Gregorian calendar starts at 0, and it's starting after the birth of Jesus. Jesus didn't even get his name until 1550. The slave trade started in 1492, but it wasn't a slave trade per se. A lot of the motherfuckers were on these lands already. They didn't have to bring motherfuckers from Africa. They came over here to where the product already was. And they decided who was going to get what. You feel what I'm saying? The French and the Spanish were going to get the central and southern parts of the Americas, and then the English were going to get the northern parts of the Americas. You feel me? When they came over, they had the Lost Colony, and June with them niggas and shit, Virginia Dare and all of them, and then you had the conquistadors, the Spanish conquistadors and the French conquistadors that landed amongst the island area, Central America and South America, right? All of them landed towards indigenous motherfuckers that looked like us. So where we're perceiving, oh well, we were shipped off no, we wasn't. They got on ships and they came over here and enslaved us. History has been rewritten. So now, this ties into what I'm telling you about. When we go back, BCE, they're erasing us. They're even rewriting the story of how they even met us. Like, they really got you believing, no, this was an empty fucking land. We just brought niggas from Africa all the way over here. Like, for real, that's what we did. That's what we did. So Christopher Columbus started his run in 1492, but the letter J didn't exist until 1550. They had years to get their life straight. When Christopher Columbus landed and he started seeing with the people, he's like, yo, this is who we got to deal with. This is who we're going to have to deal with. Right? All of these niggas, when they started writing their reports of everything from the people that they met in Haiti, the people that they met in Cuba, all of the shit that they were going to have to do, they say, yo, this is what we're going to have to do. But each one of these came in the name of Christianity. On this side, they came in the name of Christianity. They stayed over there and conquered in the name of Islam. Oh yeah, don't nothing get a pass from me. Don't nothing get a pass from me because everything is against my people. And it all starts with this BCE shit. So they're all trying to erase it. This is why you have a lot of Africans, continental Africans, who are, that's why you have a lot of continental Africans who are Muslim or Islamic, because the sub-Saharan trade was ruthless. That was some other shit that lasted for 1,200 years. Ironically, incidentally, it was a part of the 1,200 years that was a part of the Dark Ages that nobody seems to know about. How in the fuck do you have a Dark Ages in Europe where everything is supposed to be, being rewritten and the culture and all these things, but yet you have 1,200 years of slaughtering motherfuckers that look like me in a whole different continent, cutting off their heads and making them become Muslims. That was for 1,200 years. Now we look at the transatlantic slave trade, it was different. A lot of the things that we look at with slave trade is that we think the slaves were transported off. A lot of the trade was the economy trading, right? You feel what I'm saying? What the slaves were producing was being traded. That's a lot of part that is kind of underwritten that a lot of people don't pay attention to. You feel what I'm saying? We literally think that we were plucked from Africa, driven all the way over here on new land, that if you take anything out of its natural habitat, it will die when it lands. If it cannot adapt fast enough. And most things cannot adapt within a single generation. If you took a snow fox and put it in the climate of a regular fox, it will die. It will not be able to procreate. It will not be able to continue its lineage because the fox is different. Even though it's still a fox, genetically it's still a different fox. It's not going to last. It's not going to be able to have the evolutionary tactics to evolve that fast. It's going to have to happen over time. Just like with malaria. Malaria, when they put malaria in mosquitoes and shit and sent it to Africa, it took time. It was killing us off, but it took time for the genetics to kick in and transmute the blood cells into sickle cells. Sickle cell anemia, people who have sickle cell anemia are immune to malaria. They won't tell you that part because that is a mutative adaptation. So the psyche knew that, okay, I gotta be able to fight this. So I'm gonna create the sickle cell to create the immunity. This is gonna hurt me for a little bit. And then now I'm gonna shift back. I'll be able to shift back into, with time, to have the mutation that turns off that makes malaria no longer toxic to me or poisonous to me, and then I can refix the sickle cell anemia by erasing it. This is why you have people that have the trait and people who don't have the trait. And if somebody who's a carrier and somebody who doesn't have it, somebody who has the trait shouldn't have kids because you're likely to produce a sickle cell kid. But if you don't have the trait, and if somebody has a trait and you don't have the trait at all, you can erase the trait. But now you still, what they don't tell you, that you still have that immunity to malaria. That's how smart our bodies are, but it takes time for that to happen. So with the transatlantic slave trade, it was they were it was about slavery, but it was more so about the product the slaves were producing. So not all of us, it wasn't that many motherfuckers being shipped. The product was here already. The product was here already. So they came over and they enslaved the people. Like I said, so you had the 400 years with under Christianity, you have 1,200 years under Islam. So we have a total of 1,800 years of enslavement under an Abrahamic religion of only black people, of only black people. So here's why this is important. Because again, we're going to take this back. We're going to take this back to the Council of Nicaea, because now with the Western world, they're like, we're going to rule in Jesus' name. But Jesus had not been the nigga name yet. So again, around after the Dark Ages, they went through, they set up the entire lie. Literally, they're setting up a lie. I'm telling you right now, this is a lie. None of this shit is real. They're setting up a lie and they're getting the time straight, right? Before the letter J was being invented, right, which was 1500, that's when they got together all of the writers, the Shakespeare's, the Descartes, and all of the major poets and philosophers of that time, and they had them write the Bible. This is where the quote unquote Bible was canonized. If you watch anime, you understand what it is for something to be canon. Canon means it is a part of the main storyline. Why does history need a main storyline? And why does it need a main storyline to maintain continuity? So certain things were taken out because like, nah, that fucks up the canon. This fucks up the canon. This is why the book was canonized by King James. Okay, so for beginning and this is what it is. We're going to teach you that all of these events really happened. Some of these stories were just repackaged expressions of shit that really happened in history that they put in there and change the characters. There's a story of King David where God is telling him, um, I need you to go fight this war. And when you go fight this war, I don't need you to take all the men. You're only going to need 300 men because I have to prove to them that I am the Lord your God. Right? Very arrogant ass nigga, bro. Very arrogant ass nigga. So what does he say do? He says, look at all of the men who drink and take the men who drink like the who kneel to drink with the hands and not the men who put their face in the water. Weirdos. But anywho, out of those men, only 300 drunk with their hand. 300 drunk with their hand. Okay. Okay, my nigga. We know where you got that story from, buddy. You feel me? And they won. That was a little bit different story because they actually won. But the story started off as we're going to tell the story. We're going to tell the history, how we want to tell it. But we're not going to include any dates or any points that can make it referenceable to the past. Okay? And I know you're like, well, Sing, they had people. So now this is going to start into where, as they're writing this, the letter J is coming into existence. 1550 was when the letter J actually came into existence. So they're writing this story around this time. You feel me? That's when the Bible gets canonized, and they're like, yo, these are the stories that we're going to use. So again, the Bible and the Quran were also offshoot to one another. So they were kind of created around the same time. The Abrahamic religion, they told a different story. One side is going to be here, one side is going to be here. The Quran was already in motion, right? The Quran was already in motion. That's how it was used to slaughter with the sub-Saharan slave trade for 1,200 years. They decided to do the same shit with the Bible, right? But all of it started with the Council of Nicaea, okay? So the letter J comes into existence. This is why this episode is called In Jesus' Name, because the letter J finally comes into existence. Now, it's like, all right, well, if his name wasn't Jesus, his name was Yahshua or whatever the case may be. Whatever. Anyway, if the letter J didn't exist, let's run down a list of names in the Bible that also didn't exist. Jesus, James, John, Joshua, Judges, um, Jehovah, Jethro. Jethro is important because he's Leah and Rachel's father. Jacob, Job. Job is a very important story in the Bible too. There's more J's, but those are the ones that I can name on the top of the head. But two other names that are very important are Jew and Judaism. If the letter J didn't exist till 1550, neither this religion nor these people could have existed until 1550. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people will say, well, seeing, and this is where it's going to get real, real tricky. Well, it's not really tricky. It's going to be more expository because you're going to be like, oh, that's what that means. Yes, nigga, that's what that fuck it means. When we look at the word Jew or Judaism, right, them not starting with a J. So we have to ask ourselves, if the letter J didn't exist, what letter was it? So now we know they use Y's. Two things are going to be either you're going to use a Y or you're going to use an H. Not that it's the H itself, but the hus sound, right? This is why in, certain cultures, Jesus is pronounced Jesus. And the J's are pronounced with H's because there's two delineations. It can either pronounce as a H or it can be pronounced as a Y. Very, very important. Very, very important underworking to understand that the letter J could be used both ways, right? And it was supposed to be used both ways. But here, we're not going to use it as the H. We can't use it to the H because we have to go back to the Hebrew side and use it as the Y sound because that's what it is. Because Jehovah was actually Yehovah. Jesus would have been Yeshua. So it's like, oh, these people were real. They just changed the name. Names ain't supposed to translate, but there's a reason why they do. Because now when you translate Jew or Jewish, this is why the language is Yiddish, but this is why you pronounce Jew. It is actually you. You, Y-H-U, Y-E-W, is very, very important. I'm about to explain why. Because what is a ewe? A ewe is another name for a sheep. This is why the entire theme of the religion is sheep and shepherds. Jesus was a shepherd over his sheep. The sheep were the ewes. The ewes were the Jews. The Jews are who the fuck we bitching about right fucking now. Sheep. Sheep. Sheep, my nigga. Okay? So this is the first point. So when we tie that in to a ewe, And if you don't believe me, just look up the word you, E-W-E. Now, granted, it's like they don't spell it Y-E-W. Look up the word E-W-E. Phonetics. That's why it's very, very important. You got to learn the phonetics of language too. You feel me? This is why the English language is what it is and why it's so tricky to actually learn and master, because a lot of this shit is phonetically established, but it's still tainted because they spell it a certain way by adding and subtracting letters. So Jews are actually ewes, and ewes actually represent sheep. So it makes sense why they have hair of wool. Hair of wool to symbolize and represent and replicate a sheep, the animal. For real, for real. There's a chapter, there's a verse, there's a whole story in I want to say it's Genesis or Exodus, but whatever. It's in the first area, the Old Testament of the Bible, where they're talking about Laban's sheep or Laban's flocks, and he has speckled flocks. He has these different flocks, and he's actually interbreeding sheep. He's interbreeding sheep, and they're saying it's a metaphor for the people or whatever the case may be. But it's very important because now it ties into the understanding and the connection of the word you, which is Jew, which is you. These are the sheep under a specific flock, right? But again, you're going to ask me, well, Sing, what does this have to do with erasing our history? Has everything to do with erasing our history, because it starts the reality from Jesus being born, and everything before Jesus doesn't count. Right? So now, when we consider Jew and Yiddish and Judaism or whatever the case may be, this is where the delineation is coming in. Because, like I said, when you have the Abrahamic religions, the offshoots are Isaac and Ishmael, Ishmael being the Quran and Islam. But then you have Isaac, you know what I'm saying, ultimately diverting into creating Christianity and Judaism. Judaism couldn't exist if there's no letter J. There also was no letter C, so it started with a K. But anyway, there's the letter J, so Judaism or whatever. So we understand that the Judaism is a Judaism. It is the principle and the understanding that you are a sheep to be lorded over. Christianity is the same thing. So now when you hear me say that there's two types of chosen people, this is what it is. The Jews and the Hebrews are two different people. They're not the same people. This now is going to tie into the Amazon shit. The Jews and the Jews and the Hebrews are not the same people. I don't know where we got off thinking that they're the same motherfucker. They're not the same motherfucker because they come from two different offshoots, right? Now, mind you, all of this shit is fake, but I'm speaking in context of what people we're deciding to accept, because now we're serving the same God. The same God governs both Judaism and Christianity, but Christianity and Judaism are not the same things. They tell the same stories, but they define a different chosen people. This is why the Jews honor the Torah and the Talmud, while the Christians honor the Bible, the Holy Bible. All of this shit, we've already broken down several times over that this shit is about astrology. This shit is about numerology. This shit is about esoteric magic. We got that. We got that. But now I'm putting it into terms as to why motherfuckers are still shocked and still asking the dumbass question, why did they let this movie stay up on Amazon if it was anti-Semitic? The movie is not anti-Semitic. The movie is actually pro-Semitic. Kyrie and Kanye saying that they are the real Jews is what is anti-Semitic. You have to fucking listen, y'all. It's not the movie. It's not about the movie. The movie is going to keep your ass subjugated as a black person because you're going to align with the Christian side of it to remain a Hebrew. A Hebrew and a Jew is not the same thing. Hebrew is a language. The Jew is an actual person. But the Jew represents the you, and the you represents the sheep. And the whole theme of the whole religion is to be a sheep lorded under a gentle shepherd. That gentle shepherd is Jesus, Yeshua, the Messiah. That's your shepherd. But this person never existed. Boom. Boom. That's the crazy part. So literally, your imagination has created this world for you. So now, when we understand the difference between a Jew and a Hebrew, is simple. The Jews, and this is where the beef is coming in, because they're telling black people, y'all are not. So black people say we can be Shem or whatever. And that's where the reality is coming in. It's like we're trying to claim Shem. We're trying to claim Shem because we think Shem is a Jew. Shem is not a Jew. It's not. Now, this is where the stories merge. But then it's like, if these stories merge, there's still the divergence, because one side is telling you that the Shemites are Jewish. The other side is telling you that the Shemites are Hebrews. So you're believing that these are the same beings and are not. The Jews are created, according to their doctrine, to enslave the world. Read the Talmud, read the Torah. You guys, the Jews, are responsible for being the enslavers. The Hebrews are responsible for being the enslaved. Why do you think that they gave you that version and they don't want you to accept the other version? And black people, which version do we accept? First thing you point out, you have never in your life heard a Jewish person even utter Deuteronomy 28 as that being what defines who they really are. Black people do, though, because Deuteronomy 28 tells you ain't shit. It tells you can't get your shit together. It tells you you're going to eat your motherfucking babies. It tells you you're going to be lost in bewilderment and you're going to get shipped off into enslavement for 400 fucking years. You know how powerful that is? Because you believe that and this is where it has to happen, because this ties into why they're allowing it to stay on Amazon, because they know niggas gonna go watch it. They know niggas gonna go read the book and say, "Oh, we are the real Hebrews," which means we're all the ones who will remain enslaved for the rest of our creation. Which means what? They can continue to erase the motherfucking history. They can continue to erase the motherfucking history. Back to the letter J not existing, this also means that people like Joseph did not exist. Now, this is where you get the name Yusef or Yosef. Very similar story. But here's a very important piece to that story, right? One thing that I've learned about studying the Bible and studying the Hebrews and how the Hebrews they believe they were enslaved. Jewish people don't ever believe that they were supposed to be enslaved. They believe that they were supposed to be the enslaver. Belief is a powerful level of the mind. You can run the world off belief alone. You can control the entire world off belief alone. It's being done right now. Niggas want to be Hebrews. Why? Because we have to justify the atrocities that happen to us some way, shape, or form. So in accepting this, we literally are allowing our history to be erased. So we're like, think about this, y'all. Even in the text, it says you're going to be scattered across off different distant lands. How the fuck did we all end up in the Americas? All Hebrews are in the Americas? Really? That's not scattered across distant land. What about the East? Why did any of us end up in Asia? Why did any of us end up in Europe? Why didn't any of us end up in Australia? Why did any of us end up in the Melanesian Islands? Why did we all end up in the Americas? Because we were already on the Americas. They played us. Ha, shenanigans. I'm calling it. They played us. You feel me? Because they knew that we had to, they called it manifest destiny. They knew they were going to colonize and whitewash the world. And they knew how they were going to erase everything. So a lot of the shit that we've learned, that we observed and shit like this, like the Mayans, the Incans, the Aztecs, those are the motherfuckers they're erasing. They've already erased them. When was the last time you learned about a Mayan or Incan or Aztec? In history in school? You don't. You learn about Europe. You learn about manifest destiny. You learn about all of the shit that they moved over, the Trail of Tears, the $5 Indians and shit that you think are real. No, you don't learn about the real motherfuckers that are you. This is where the backlash is coming in against Kyrie and Kanye, because they're trying to claim the slave master, not the slave. They're trying to claim the slave master as the slave. So they're telling you Hebrews, Deuteronomy 28, but we're the real Jews. How you the slave and the master? You can't. They know that shit. That's why they get mad. They're like, yo, you got to apologize for that shit, homie. You ain't the master over me. You are the slave. So they're like, why can they continue to sell this movie? This movie's not even anti-Semitic because it's pro-Semitic. It continues to keep black people believing they're Hebrews, which continues to keep the Jewish people believing that they're Jewish, the Caucasian people to believe they're Jewish. Because you got to ask, is Jew a religion or is it a race of people? Neither. It's some made up shit that doesn't exist. But when you have a system and when you can codify a system to make everybody believe it, then it becomes real. It becomes real as fuck. Right. So now we get into the point of, erasing the history, and everybody's like, yo, Sting, you still haven't told how none of this shit is real. You understand that whether or not this is real by understanding the Bible and understanding the Pharaoh. As black people, we've studied this book for 400 years, 400 plus years. Still don't get it. But even now, we have the capacity to understand that we still love the story of Moses saying, let my people go. There's a duality here. Because who the fuck was Moses talking to? The Pharaoh, nigga. You know, Passover, Pharaoh, God wanted to kill all the Pharaoh. Okay, cool. Pharaoh showed up 2 times in the book, and in both of these times, he never had a name. But he's the same motherfucking Pharaoh. Joseph and Moses were not in the same pocket of time, but the same Pharaoh ruled when both of these motherfuckers was alive. Sit with that. Hey, bro, for real though, at some point we gotta stop talking to women about masculinity and start talking to each other about it. And I mean really talk to each other. Not as enablers and co-signers, but as men trying to reach the pinnacle of our essence. And that's what the So Frail series does. So Frail 1 is the definition. So Frail 2 is the acknowledgement. And So Frail 3 is the resolution. If you rock with the So Frail conversations, I can guarantee you will rock with the So Frail series of books. So visit IamJustSaying.com right now so you can add the series to your library. I promise you will never look at masculinity the same again, and you're going to stop wasting your time arguing with women about it. This is a conversation that men need to have between men, and it's time we start having this conversation now. This is why I be telling motherfuckers like, yo, you cannot be a religious masculine man. You just can't. Because analysis and deconstruction has to kick in, and you gotta like, oh, wait a minute, motherfucker. Wait. Masculinity and religion don't go inside. They don't work with each other, right? But anywho, Pharaoh was good to Joseph. Joseph's own family, who were Hebrews, they kicked him out, sold him off into slavery, and so Joseph ended up working up in the ranks under Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh looked out for the family when the famine hit. So Pharaoh was good in that aspect, but according to Moses, Pharaoh was evil, but at the same time, it's the same Pharaoh. They don't give you know why they don't give you the name of the Pharaoh? Because it solidifies the history and shows that they're erasing the history. Because if you knew what Pharaoh enslaved the Hebrews when they so-called built the pyramids, you can timestamp it, literally. Because if the Hebrews were enslaved, according to the biblical text, the biblical historical document, when you use BC and AD, the Hebrews were enslaved from 1850 BC to 1450 BC. Because they want you to believe that it's real. Oh, this is like, okay, we timestamp it, everything like this. This is when they did. They built the pyramids here. They couldn't have, because it took 85 years to build the pyramids, and the pyramids were built in 2600 BC. This skews an entire timeline by at least 1,000 years. By at least 1,000 years, it skews the whole timeline, which means what we would be in the year 3000 to make that work rather than the year 2000, which means y'all motherfuckers is really fucking with a lot of calendars here. But it can't. So if we don't give you the Pharaoh's name, because like, which Pharaoh? Now, we know that the pyramids are built within that time frame. So if the Hebrews built the pyramids while they were enslaved under the Pharaoh for 400 years, the same Pharaoh for 400 years, my nigga. This nigga is immortal. Think about it. It took this same Pharaoh. The Hebrews were enslaved under this nigga for 400 years, cuz. They was enslaved under him for 400 fucking years. Moses lived for 40 or whatever the case may be. They've been enslaved the whole time. This same Pharaoh is still alive while Joseph rules. And then gives Joseph a hand. Nigga, that nigga old. Here's why that's important, because historically no Pharaoh have ever lived that long. Because now when you put the name to the Pharaoh, you're like, which Pharaohs, because then you have to go into the history and you understand that a Pharaoh wasn't called a Pharaoh, it's called a Nesut. And then Nesut was the king. Now you run down all of the Nesuts, Akhenaten, Amenhotep, Thutmose, run down whichever one you want to. Not a single one of them lived 400 years. Not only that, a lot of them were not in the pocket of 1850 to 1450 BC. I told y'all, I'm cold. I'm cold with this shit. Because I spent so much time trying to believe it that it's like, yo, I have to because this is not making sense to me anymore. Who was the It's like, when you really start learning it, you realize, oh, damn, they're erasing our history. When you have books like How to Make a Negro a Christian, you got to ask yourself what a Negro was. Now we got to go back to another type of language, and we got to deal with that. Negro derives from negra. Negras was what the Spanish conquistadors called the black people. And then the white people ended up taking that and calling them niggers. This is why if you watch an old Southern slave movie or whatever the case may be, I don't encourage y'all watching it because we ain't supposed to be watching them shits anyway. We gotta let them die. But they making these realities because it's like as long as we keep believing that we're slaves, we can only find ourselves in shit that made us enslaved, which is the Bible. History does not make us a slave. Our true history does not make us start as slaves. Our true history shows you that slavery interrupted our greatness. You dig what I'm saying? But you go back, the white dude, you look in the South, they call you a nigger. The niggers. The nigger ultimately became the nigger, but it started off as the negra. You feel me? Then it transitioned, turned the Negro into a slave. So now, when these conquistadors landed on this land, nigga, we was here. We was here already. We was here in the Americas. They didn't have to bring anybody from Africa. They're gonna tell you that fucking story. They didn't have to bring nobody from Africa. Motherfuckers was here. This is why I tell y'all we're not African, we're Africoid, because it's that stock. As they're writing the story, it's like, oh, these are like the people that we see in Africa, just a little bit different, but they still Africans. But you know what? We're gonna call them the blacks, the negras. That's what we're gonna call them, and that eventually became the nigger, the Negroes, or whatever the case may be. But look at the names in which we've changed over the time. We started off as niggers, eventually changed to Negroes when they was, then we got colored, and we became African Americans. Now we're foundational Black Africans. All of this shit tells you started off from slavery, though. Don't none of this shit tell you anything other than you started off as slaves. My nigga, come on. Come on. Because that's the only place that they're allowing you to fit in history. This is why we have to read the information left by the Dr. Runoku Ishidu's, the Dr. Kaba Kamene's, the fucking Ivan Van Sertima's. We have to read this information. They came before Columbus is a lot deeper than people really understand because they were here before Columbus. Nubia, the jewel of Kush. No, Kush, the jewel of Nubia. That book is going up in price right now because of what information it has. That book is very, very important because it shows how one, the matriarchal society that we once had wasn't the way we perceive it to be patriarchal now, where the women rule. No, you understood that you were who your mother was, not who your father was. Men and women still operated in harmony with one another, but you understood you were who your mother is, because scientifically you even understand that you're your mother based on mitochondrial DNA. We was cold with this shit. But even deeper than that, between that book and They Came Before Columbus, there's a connection that Ramesses of the Pharaoh Ramesses, or the Nasut, he had a connection with the Americas already. An open connection with the Americas, where it's not quite understood whether he originated here and went to Egypt, or he started in Egypt and came here. But either way, we know we got pyramids in the Grand Canyon in Arizona. We got same shit that was in Egypt we have over here. Not only that, within North America and South America, we have what the ancient Incans, Mayans, and the Aztecs left, where they built the same types of monuments. They're erasing that, y'all. And we're letting them because we're trying to follow the religions they gave us to enslave us. And we wonder why this movie is being allowed to play, because it's bigger than that. It's much bigger than what you think it is. This movie is allowed to stay on Amazon because it allows niggas to think they still slaves. We started off as slaves. We came from slaves. Before that, we practiced devil worship, and we was this, that, and the third. We were savages. They told us. Why would they tell you savage, stupid motherfucker? If anything, you're the savage now. You feel me? If in 7-Eleven, this is another point, during the Dark Age, during 7-Eleven, the Moors were teaching Europeans how to bathe, my nigga. If we're teaching them how to bathe within their dark ages, what the fuck is going on with us? Where were we at? They're erasing that. Slowly but surely, they have already erased it with the birth of Jesus. They literally erased our history with the Bible. They literally erased our history with the Quran. They literally erased our history with the Talmud, with the Torah. All of these books they have used to erase our history, and none of these books are real. How in the fuck did we let them whoop our ass this fucking bad? We went from teaching them how to wash their motherfucking ass to believe in everything that they tell us. about our deities. That's some amazing shit. That's some amazing shit. And I know we have the elders, we had the people that talk about, white people are them, they're masters of technology and they're, illusion. How the fuck did we let them deceive us? That's unforgivable. I'm sorry. I cannot allow myself to conceive or wrap my mind around the fact that the dominant genetic species has allowed the recessive genetic species to control them. When I was in med school, the genetics teacher said white people as we know them today are 6,000 years old. The light-skinned people are about 25,000 years old. But the darker flesh people, we don't know. It's over 50,000 years, though, as we know them today. How in the fuck did we get conquered by our children? How in the fuck did we let... Imagine as a parent, your 2-year-old telling you what the fuck to do. Your 2-year-old controlling you. It doesn't make sense, does it? But as a people, this is what we've done. So much so that we're following a history. We're following a historic template that is erasing our shit. So like I said, the Pharaoh's name is not listed in the Bible for a reason. Because the moment you know the Pharaoh's name that controlled them, no Pharaoh lived 400 fucking years, y'all. You feel me? And even if there's different Pharaohs that they lived under. No, it's not. It's not. Go read it. Go read it. Fucking read the story. It's been the same fucking Pharaoh. Same one. That's why they didn't give you the name, because the moment they give you the name, they give you the time. When they give you the time, it erases that information, and the BCE CE dilemma is done. BCE is before, they say it's before Common Era. I'm going to say that BC is Black control. That's Black conquering. That's when we controlled the world. That's when we was teaching people. That's when they was learning from us. They stole our shit and they erased our history. And they're erasing our history with religion. When you actually break down the etymology of the word religion, you get religio or religare. It means to bind. What does our religion bind us to? The destruction of our history. So the only place that we can find ourselves is as slaves. Niggas still want to say, yo, we started off as slaves. How? How? When? How did this happen? My people? How? And every day we affirm this shit. We read the same books that show us that we ain't shit. We continue on with the same books that show us we ain't shit. We ain't never gonna be shit. Our mamas ain't shit. Our daddies ain't shit. And you know why? Because the masculine essence is gone. The ability to analyze and deconstruct this shit is gone. That was one of the truest realities of the reason for buck breaking. I take away your ability. That's not only buck breaking, but this is why they couldn't read. Couldn't read or write, because analysis and deconstruction naturally kicks in when you learn to read. So they tell you what to read from. And now we operate from femininity, where now our imagination creates this world. So we literally think all of this shit is real. So now when we go back and now they're like, yo, if they tell them that they're the real Jews, why is this? Y'all missing the point. It's not the movie that they're bitching about. It's the fact that you called yourself the real Jew. The Jew's not even real. You now expose our reality, homie. You expose our reality. And in the exposure of our reality, you liberate yourself. Because if y'all are the real ones, then y'all have to honor the reality that y'all weren't supposed to be enslaved in the first place. That prophecy wasn't for y'all if y'all are the real ones. Y'all are Hebrews, though. So accept that. Go on Instagram right now. Go wherever you want to go. And when motherfuckers say we're the real Jews, what verses do they quote? Deuteronomy 28. They don't quote shit out of the Talmud that says you're going to lord and rule over the animals of this world. And the people that are Gentiles or non-Jews are animals in human form. That ain't in the Bible. That doesn't even equate to a Hebrew. This is why you wait for your shit to go in heaven, because you know that you're supposed to be a slave forever. So you're going to fall in line. And then falling in line, you're creating an entire reality that is erasing your history. Not only erasing it, it's demonizing it at the same time. The religion is demonizing your history and culture and erasing it for you to where your 0 point will always be as a slave. That's some amazing shit. That's some powerful shit. But again, it's based off the reality that, oh, we're going to control these motherfuckers. We're going to control the whole Western world by making everybody believe in Jesus. It's wild how the time of the Council of Nicaea happened. The letter J wasn't even existed yet. It wasn't even created yet. I ain't even gonna hold you. I gotta take my hat off to these futuristic motherfuckers, yo. They planned this shit years ahead of. They planned this shit for 1,000 years because they knew that they can lock you down for at least 400. That's a hell of an investment. That's a hell of an investment. You lock down 1,000 years of quote unquote dark ages to secure a lie so you can enslave a people for at least 400 years. At least 400 years. And we be thinking the Willie Lynch shit, the divide and conquer, all that shit. Nah. You was already believing that you was a slave the whole time. So now the battle, it ain't even about colorism no more. People don't even pay attention to that. It's about who's going to be converted and who's not. It's Hebrews, right? Like, I remember when I was in Philly, man, I got into it with some Hebrew Israelites on the corner one time because the motherfucker gonna say, we in this problem because you don't believe. No, y'all ain't. We not in this because I don't believe in this shit. Yeah, because we gonna be punished because everybody gotta follow the law, statutes, and commands. Bitch, we been in this shit before I even got here, before I even had a law, statute, and command to even understand to follow. This ain't got shit to do with that. Y'all don't understand that, but y'all want to stay enslaved. So y'all justify your enslavement by looking at your people. Now you're mad at your people because it's like, we going through this because y'all are like this. Nigga, you too, because you believe in some shit like this. The moment you understand this religion, the shackles break. I've been trying to get y'all to this point of understanding, but belief is hard because everybody keeps telling me when I had these conversations with people, they say, well, everybody gonna believe what they want to believe. No, y'all fear what y'all gonna fear. I have no fear of any deity. I have no fear. Like, there's no way in hell if I'm created in the image and likeness of a deity, why would I fear myself? Think about that. All this time we've been told, y'all read Sophro 3, break that shit down all the way through. But all this time we've been told we're creating the image and likeness of a deity. And yet we don't actualize ourselves. We don't act like that. Like, you feel me? Here's another thing that I mentioned as far as the chosen people and shit like that. The people will quote all day long Deuteronomy 28. See, this is how we know we the real ones. No, y'all the real Hebrews. Yeah, cool. The Jews and Hebrews aren't the same thing. Understand that. There's two totally different books, two totally different doctrinations. Hebrews are Christian. Hebrews are Christians. Jews are Judaism. Let me say that over so it's grammatically correct. Hebrews are Christianity. Jews are Judaism. It's not the same nigga. Like, you feel me? Y'all not the same motherfuckers. The Jews are designed to conquer the Hebrews. The Jews are made to enslave Hebrews, Gentiles, and non-Jews. Hebrews are ordained to be enslaved by their enemies. Come on, bro. Come on, bro. It's right there. And it's choosing based on what you accept. What you believe in your head and what you believe penetrates down to your unconscious mind. You act out that reality. Niggas really need permission from white people for this very reason. Because when they're trying to hide it from you, they're not hiding it from you. They always say the best way to keep it from a black man is to put it in. No, the best way to hide it from a black man is to put it in a book. And the best way to keep it from him is tell him what books to read. They control the education system. They control every bit of information that we're supposed to learn. As they're we're watching the erasure right now, and we don't think that half the other shit has already been erased. Nigga, McGraw-Hill, we got to boycott this. They're trying to remove slavery. They did more than that already when they gave you the religion, my nigga. You don't know shit about shit from what our people did because the shit's already been erased. The shit's already been erased. So much so that we think this is why we have to go back and we got to think that we from Egypt. This is where the divide is coming in. On one hand, either we're gonna be look at what we rep. Either we're gonna be Kemetic and we Egyptians, or we Hebrews. That's it. That's it. Say I'm lying. When the conscious community popped off and it was a divide. It was either you're gonna be Kemetic because you're gonna study African spirituality and being Kemetic, or you're gonna stay in the Bible and be Hebrew. This is why I always tell people you got to go back to Egypt, up from Kemet and out. Because what it's going to do when you go back to Egypt, you're going to learn about Kemet. When you learn about Kemet, you're going to go up to Kush, Nubia, and it's three: Nubia, Kush. What's the third one? Because you got to go back to Kemet. No, Kemet is the third one because Kemet is the child of Nubia and Kush, right? Then when you get to Nubia and Kush, that's when you come back to the Americas. When you come back to the Americas, that's when you link up with the Incas, the Mayas, and the Aztecs and the Olmecs. And that's when you put all of this shit together and you realize, nigga, as long as we believe we the Egyptian and Hebrew, our history stops there. All this other shit that we learn about, you don't learn about Noptoplaya, about how our people codified and broke. And see, here's another point about that. This is why history is so important and why they don't want you to have yours. If you understand Noptoplaya is a space in Egypt. Again, I don't know why niggas don't know about this. When it comes to Egypt, we just want to know that white people didn't build the pyramids. Okay, cool. There's a specific place called Noptoplaya, right? Look that up. Naptaplaya. Noptoplaya. That is a stone. It's like almost like Stonehenge. Stonehenge was another area. Motherfucker come up. They got the seven wonders of the world. They don't know where we built them shits. Our people built them shits astrologically. But Noptoplaya is the one that it really touched my soul when I learned about that one, because with Noptoplaya, that's how they charted the 26,000 year celestial calendar. The very calendar that they used to set the Gregorian calendar up, where Jesus marks the age of Pisces, but sets the tone for the erasure of our people. You feel what I'm saying? 26,000 year calendar. It's like 25,900 or something to be exact. But don't get me quoting because it's like 2,100 years a season, right? And it also goes counterclockwise. It's amazing. But here's why that's important. Because in order to chart something and erect a monument that is precise with it. Now, mind you, this shit was so fucking precise, it's only off by like 3 degrees. 3 degrees against the stars from Earth? You's a bad motherfucker. You feel me? But here's why it's important. Because it took 26,000 years to build. At minimum, the information had to be consistently passed down for 78,000 years. 78,000 years. That is 3 cycles. You need 3 cycles of something to have a completion. The first experience is an occurrence. The second experience is a coincidence, and the third is a cycle. You feel me? It is a cycle. You feel me? You need at least 3 things to have 3 runs around to have a cycle develop. So to erect Noptoplaya to be correctly aligned with the zodiac sign, with the cosmological zodiac of 26,000 years, your people had to be here at least 78,000 years to pass the shit down. We were here longer than that. What we know about Egypt, what we know about Kemet, those are the last of that's it. That's the last. That's the changing of the guards. That's why the history is what it is. This is why we learned about the Greeks. This is why we learned about the Romans. This is why we learned about the Egyptians as Egyptians, not as Kemets when they got overtaken and they got controlled. We don't learn about the Hannibal Barcas. We don't learn about the Mansa Musas. Those were the last of the living breeds. The last of the dying breeds. I'm sorry. That was the last of the dying breeds that were getting killed off. You feel what I'm saying? But we had already ruled long, long, long before that. And it wasn't about ruling. We lived in harmony in this world. They've erased all of that. Already erased it. Niggas really don't even know about Noptoplaya. Noptoplaya is a game changer in understanding because if they were able to build that, and then you have it coinciding with the Mayan calendar. The Mayan calendar was predicting the age of Aquarius coming in and the age of Pisces entering. I'm leaving. How do we have this information and this connection from both sides of the world? The Mayans were here in the Americas. The Kemetics and the Egyptians were over there on that side. And we still, somebody made a connection a long time before white people even came into this motherfucker. In Kemet, they call it the Dendera chart. In Maya, they call it the Mayan calendar. But you expect me to believe that only the Mayans had one? The Incans didn't have one? The Olmecs didn't have one? The Aztecs didn't have one? They separate you from all of those. They think they literally have us believing those people just disappeared, bro. It's like where the Mayans and they're you. They are you. They are us. We are them. This is amazing to know that they've used religion in Jesus' name. They shut us down. They erased all of our shit. All of it. All of it. Like I said, even if we just base it off Noptoplaya, we're not even looking at Stonehenge. When we look at the Tasmania area, they slaughtered all of those people. They call them Tasmanian devils. Somebody used to love that cartoon. I did. Didn't even know that was an insult. Didn't even know that was literally an erasure of my people. Didn't even know that was erasure of my people. Literally, and you watch the cartoon, The Tasmanian Devil, it's a motherfucking cartoon about they're representing black people. If you a lot of the shit that they do when it includes black people, they use animals, especially with Disney. The Lion King, Tasmanian, well, Looney Tunes was different. It was, but all of that shit was around the same. They use animals when they're discussing black people. The Tasmanian Devil was the black people, Africoid people from Tasmania who were wiped the fuck out. Completely wiped out. They wiped the Tasmanians out. They wiped the Australians out. They wiped so many of our people out. But so many of them they couldn't wipe out. So they got to erase the history to let them know that at the end of the day, y'all have always been slaves. There's no higher you can rise. I always use the example of a bow and arrow. The further back you can pull a bow and arrow, the further that bitch gonna shoot. If slavery won't allow our bow and arrow to go back that far, how the fuck far you think we gonna go? They've erased our history already. I don't want to say they're erasing it anymore because that is like, it's erased. It's gone. My nigga, that shit gone. And we know on the inside we're so much greater than the bullshit that we dealing with. And we don't know why. Because the crazy part about it is because they don't have the same connection we have as the creation that we are. Our genetic memory runs farther than theirs does. So this shit is still in us. They erased everything physically and it's still in our DNA and all we have to do is unlock it. This is not, I don't want to get on this woke shit, but it comes with certain catalysts will expose you to certain things. This is why we have to travel. This is why we have to go to different climates and different environments because it awakens our DNA. I'm not telling everybody to go to Dominica or the West End or whatever. I just know when I went to Dominica and I started interacting with the people, I realized what the fuck was happening. I started to realize my DNA started to unlock when I started eating certain foods. Of this is why they don't two things they don't want you to do. They make sure that you wear rubber on your shoes and you don't walk around in the dirt anymore because you can get connections, divine connections from the earth. You feel what I'm saying? And they don't want you in the sun like they used to because being in the sun is still awakening you. But the most important thing, they don't want you eating the fruit, the vegetables that you were supposed to be eating. They want you to eat fast food and all the bullshit that they provide you that has nothing in it because it keeps you in a certain space. You dig what I'm saying? It keeps you in a certain space, a certain pocket, a certain mental reality. A reality that they were able to create because they erased our history. They erased our history and gave us the Bible. And our people believe that the Bible and the Quran are historical books with no dates and no points of reference where you can cross check anything. Go back. I don't give a fuck if you're reading the Bible. I don't give a fuck if you're reading the Quran. I don't give a fuck what you're reading. Go back and tell me when they include a Pharaoh. The Bible tells you we have Pharaoh in the bitch. Tell me what the motherfucker's name was. They made sure they used all of the characters that were Roman to solidify that we were here. You feel me? Pontius Pilate, Julius Caesar. They made sure. You feel me? But Jesus didn't walk around in that era. They used real figures to put him into the historical space of that to make it real. But this is why they didn't. Why would you see, when you use Julius Caesar's real name and use Pontius Pilate's real name, it fucks with the reality that you can't, once you put their names in the book, you can't use the Pharaoh's name. Because now it separates the gap so fucking wide that it now turns the entire reality off. In Jesus' name. They gave us this shit in Jesus' name, and they erased all of our history. Not only erased all of our history, made us fear who we really are and what we really are, to where we think it's demonic, to where we think it's something scary, to where we think we gotta hide in the religion, and we wonder why we can't grow as a people. Our history's gone. And if we understood our history, we would know about Ogun, we would know about Oshun, we would know about Yemaya, um, um, we would know about Papa Legba, we would know about a lot of the Orishas and a lot of the Loas and a lot of the Netters and a lot of the forces of nature that fuel us. But instead, we believe in one single entity that never existed. And that single entity has set the tone for our history and made us believe that we started off as slaves. I don't think y'all understand how powerful that really is. This is worse than a little flashy thing on Men in Black. Like, they wiped it clean. They wiped our shit clean, y'all. Wow. That's amazing. They literally wiped our entire memory bank clean. And this is the reason why they don't give a fuck about Amazon still selling that movie. They just don't want you to know that you are the real Jews, because you're not. You're the real Hebrews, which means that you're supposed to be enslaved for fucking ever to Jewish people and to your fucking enemies. And you can't say shit. It ain't a motherfucking thing you can say or do, because you accept it. Something that I've learned about demonism and shit like that. Again, I don't practice the shit, but I make sure I arm my shit with so much shit that nobody's knowledge base can control mine. You feel what I'm saying? But when you look at demons, even angels or whatever the case may be, they need your permission to enter you. They need your permission to take control of your vessel. What better way than to automatically set up you automatically set up the permission by accepting the religion that grants those things the permission to enter your body, to enter your soul, to control you. That's amazing. And the God of your enemy is your devil. So we so busy trying to be the real Jews and shit, and we wonder why we can't get any further than we are in life. Because our history's gone. We literally believe that no matter what it is, even now, the newest term, like I said, the newest term for us is foundational Black Americans. Because we built this country as what? Slaves, nigga. Nigga, why do y'all always want to start there? Why do y'all have to start there? We did not start as slaves. Slavery interrupted our culture. Study, learn more. But see, here's why. You can't learn more. Because the moment you learn more, you put that Bible down. You put that Quran down. When you realize your people are actually older than the shit you're following, That takes me back to the example that I was saying. Why in the fuck would a grown ass person follow the indoctrination of a 2-year-old? Because that's exactly what we're doing. They gave us what they were going to use to control us. I always tell people the Bible is not prophecy. The Quran is not prophecy, it's edict. They wrote this shit into existence to justify the atrocities they were going to inflict on black people everywhere. And we have allowed them to do it. Yes, as long as we continue to hold on to this. As long as we continue, at this point, I don't care who's mad or who's not. Like, yo, this is the reality. We're older than this shit. Even if you actually break down the Bible, you realize the earth, according to the Bible, is 50. I'm going to say this and I'm going to go ahead and wrap this shit up. If we break down the Bible, the earth is only 15 to 20,000 years old. Now, you're going to ask me, how you know, see? Because we're in the year. Again, y'all, they gave you the numbers. Numbers don't lie, but when you can make them tell the truth, you can make them lie in your favor. We're in the year 2022. Okay. In the year 2022. Adam precedes Noah by 2,000 years. Noah precedes David by 2,000 years. David precedes Jesus by 2,000 years. We're in the year 2022, which means Jesus precedes us by 2,000 years. Adam, Noah, David, Jesus, us. 5 times 2,000 is 10,000. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and it took him 7 days to make that. In the Bible, I forget which verse it is, but you could look it up. 1 day for God is 1,000 years for man. It took God 7 days, 6 days to create, and 7th day he rested. That's 7,000 years on top of the 10,000 years from where we are today. So when I tell you that the earth is between 15,000 and 2,000 years old, 20,000 years old, it falls at 17, depending. Based off of what I just said about Nafta Playa, being that our ancestors erected a monument that charted a 26,000 year cycle, and it had to do it at least 3 times for it to be a cycle to know that it was accurately predicted. So that's at least 17,000 years old. 17,000 years old. And we're in a world that we're following a religion that tells us the earth is only 17,000 years old. Who's lying to who? Who the fuck don't get it? Who the fuck is still in denial? So when you tell me shit like people gonna believe, it's not belief for me. Everybody got their own beliefs. It's not their own beliefs. It's the beliefs of the oppressor that keeps them enslaved. And don't forget to check out Cafe Clothing, formerly Just Scenes merch. Get all of your intricate designs crafted specifically for the melanated being to develop a positive imagery within self and to have a little bit of fun in the process. From the peace, love, knowledge, and freedom to the dead horses and water designs, all of the styles are crafted for the imagery to make you feel as you're supposed to feel. Because as I always say, the best way to fit in is to stand out. And what better way to stand out than with your exclusive styles from Cafe Clothing. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end it there. Hey man, I told y'all, bro. After season 8, bro, I ain't got shit to, I'm gonna get canceled at some point. But fuck it. If I do, I'm going out with the blaze of glory, goddamn. You feel me? I'm glad I got this episode out because now I could probably sleep. Like, it's out of my head. I don't have to worry about it no more. It's definitely out of my head. I don't got to worry about it no more. This conversation needs to be had because I get tired of repeating like people, they get on my nerves. I don't get how y'all don't understand what the situation is. But I do. Y'all can only focus on what you're told to focus on. Everybody I know keeps like, I'm on some woke shit. No, y'all ain't on the shit that I'm on, bro. Y'all on the aesthetic shit that allows people to talk. I'm about this shit that's allowing me to free my fucking self. I'm not afraid to use my fucking mind. A lot of people are afraid to use their minds because they know they're going to lose it, because they know that religion is not real. Everybody knows it's on the real. They know religion ain't real. So what they're trying to do is justify their religion by, oh, I believe in this. I've literally had people tell me I'd rather live a life and find out that it doesn't exist than act like it doesn't and find out it do. Either way, you're not gonna know. Like, really think about that. Y'all like motherfuckers who have never died told us what hell is like. Motherfuckers who have never died told us what heaven is supposed to be. We believe it. That's the mentality of a child. Only children have belief systems. Only children believe in shit. We shattered the belief of a child on a tooth fairy. We shattered the belief of a child on Santa Claus. We shattered the belief of a child on the Easter Bunny. Yet we don't want to shatter the reality of an adult on fucking Jesus and Muhammad. Yes, nigga. Even the Quran has a moment where they talk about the fitra. The fitra is supposedly an erasure of history. Oh, this don't count because this was before niggas was even on this shit. So you mean to tell me niggas was living, thriving, vibing successfully, generating life, not, and all of a sudden it don't count? Really? 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 Your history is being erased right in front of you. It's already been erased. If it's up to you to retain it, it's up to you to find it, it's up to you to restore it. Can't nobody do this shit for you, especially not your enemy. Your enemy is not going to make your history solidify itself. This is why when we look at Black history, where do we start off with? Oh, y'all went from slaves to civil rights movement to freedom. Slaves, Martin Luther King, Barack Obama. They literally closed our gap right there. You guys started off as slaves and you had a first Black president. Y'all ain't getting shit else. No. Let me change that a little bit, because I promise you, this is how the history is gonna go. It's gonna go just like this: slavery, Martin Luther King. With slavery, Martin Luther King, motherfucking Barack Obama, and Kamala Harris. That's it. That's it. We're not gonna get anything else. Hear me well. We're not gonna get anything else. The next time you see a presidency run is either gonna be somebody Hispanic or somebody Asian. Watch. You're not gonna get anything Black anymore. They literally just closed our history gap. This is it, y'all. This is where if we don't do anything better within ourselves, this right here is where we're going to stay for the rest of history. So as history goes on, they already erased it and closed the gap on every contribution that we made. Even as far as bringing their motherfucking asses out the dark ages, they already got that. Now they started with slavery. They closed the gap at Kamala Harris. You had the first Black president, who was a man. Then you had the first Black woman vice president, Kamala Harris. She ain't even Black. Anyway, that's where they're going to close the loop at. After that, you no longer exist in the shit. Mark my words. Mark my words. We won't be able to see it. Our kids, our grandkids, our great grandkids, our generations on are going to be the ones who suffer. We can't rely on them to give us any kind of information. We cannot rely on them to make sure that we know about us. They're literally closing the gap on what they want us to know. And they're still enslaving us. Still enslaving us. Most of the uprisings was because masculinity kicked in and analyzed and deconstructed the situation. Masculinity is the spiritual, mental, and physical embodiment of the essence of analysis and deconstruction. The fear of the Black Messiah is the person who can ascend to Christ consciousness to elevate his people or her people to the point of understanding. And the Messiah energy is not limited to men. In a patriarchal society, they got you believing that it is. It's not limited to men. It alternates between men and women, and they can coincide at any given time. A lot of our Messiah energy, Dr. Frances Cress Welsing, she was heavy with that shit. She just led with her femininity. You feel me? Most of the Asada Shakur, Angela Davis, we have a lot. So it's not just us as men. but it's an energy that we all supposed to tap into. An energy that when we tap into it, it erases. Religion is always going to be the final shackle because nobody dares to actually break it down. And when somebody breaks it down, the people, the cognitive dissonance of the people, shut it down. Not any. I respect his hustle. I respect what he do. I fucks with what he does as far as unity. But I really think the Minister Farrakhan is really a threat. No, nigga. No, he can't liberate the people because he promotes the religion that helps enslave them. Just a different form of enslavement. TD Jakes, Creflo Dollar, all of these niggas is the same. All of them, they the same, bro. Because it's designed to make sure that black people stay enslaved. Our history, I know that shit gets scary. That shit gets scary when you think about our history it's gonna start and it's gonna end. It's gonna start with slavery and end with Kamala Harris. The book is already closed, y'all. It's already written. They gave us everything that they wanted to give us. They gave us civil rights, the right to be civilized. You know how powerful that is? In history, 20, 30, 40, 100 years down the line when you're studying about history, damn, they needed to be civilized. The fuck was wrong with them? They needed the right to be civilized. So where was the history before that? Oh, no, they were slaves. Check and checkmate, my nigga. You will never ascend to any form of higher consciousness as long as we have our hands in it. And this is all done in Jesus' name. So when they ask why the fuck the Jews are allowing this fucking movie to stay on Amazon, this is fucking why. This is why. Because it tells the black people to stay Hebrews. Y'all are still Hebrews. Ask any black people, any black person who studies the Bible, they're going to tell you, oh, you got to study the Greek and Hebrew concordance of the same book that tells you, oh, the type of chosen people that you are, the ones who were enslaved. See what loop it keeps you in? This is one of the reasons why in studying Imhotep, when I learned that Imhotep was a multi-genius, it challenged me to use my mind, for real. Prior to studying Imhotep, I just thought I was good because I had a major and a science background. Then I realized there's no cap to what I can do. Now you get what? Information from So Frail. That's a whole different dynamic from the information, the master of the market and the inflation community. Whole different dynamic from hitting it raw. When you know your fucking history and where your people come from, you know that it's a disservice to even think that just graduating with 1 degree is enough. Or even letting them dignify you with your mental capacity is enough. Like, no, you got me fucked up. You got me fucked up. My mastery of everything is because my ancestors, because I was able to pull that bow a little bit back farther, because I was able to find the history that they're fucking erasing right now. I gotta stop saying that. They've erased it, homie. They've erased it. They've erased it so well that the furthest, even if we go back to slavery, the farthest that we gonna go back beyond slavery is to Egypt. And then when we get there, where are we going to define ourselves? Either as Kemetic and Egyptian people or as Hebrew Israelites. That's it. Nobody's going to look at themselves and say, I'm genetically dominant because I come from the Americas already with the Mayans, the Incas, and the Aztecs, and the Olmecs. Nobody's going to look at that. Nobody's going to look at I potentially come from the Australians who y'all have whitewashed, but we could be, like, you feel me? There's a lot of shit. There's a lot of shit, bro. This shit's heartbreaking to know that we are still asking this goddamn question. You feel me? This motherfucking question, like, yo, why did they let this motherfucking movie stay up? If Kyrie was so wrong, why didn't he was wrong about saying he was the real Jew, not about being a Hebrew Israelite. You can be a Hebrew Israelite. Why do you think these niggas can still pull up on the corners? These niggas can still make shit on you on YouTube. They don't get shut down for being Hebrew Israelite. Pay the fuck attention. My bad. I'm getting too frustrated, y'all. I'm getting too frustrated. Look, the history's whitewashed, the history's erased, and this is where we at right now. We in the Gregorian calendar. I hope y'all learn something. Go study, do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care no more. Look, go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. Do not rely on the school system to educate your baby. If your school system is the history in the school system is what you're using to educate your baby is going to be stuck in the pocket of being a slave, Barack Obama, and the sandwich between slavery and Kamala Harris. That's where your baby's gonna be for fucking ever. And it's gonna keep going on. We're not gonna get anything else that's black representation. We're not gonna get anything else that is gonna show us that we are greater than we are. We're not gonna get that shit anymore. We're gonna stay in the fucking Bible, we're gonna stay in the fucking Quran, and we're never gonna fucking elevate. We're never gonna remember none of the shit that we went through. So it's on you to study these motherfucking books, to go find this information, to teach your fucking babies the truth. Or doom them to stay in slavery. Do whatever the fuck you want to do. I don't care anymore. Go kiss your babies. Make sure they eat their vegetables. And I'm going to see y'all all when season 9 comes back unless I decide to do another impromptu. Peace, love, knowledge, and freedom. I'm out.